Hey, y'all, a bit of content warning to kick off this week's episode. For this week, we're diving back into the world of true crime. And such, this is a content warning for abuse and violence against animals, adults, and children. Please ensure that everyone around you is fine listening to an episode like this and that you're mentally feeling okay enough to hear this. If not, we'll see you next week and fully understand. Hey, y'all, welcome back to Gadfly, a podcast about third parties, French candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And it's always great when we start off a show with a content warning. You know it's going to be fine and great. But yeah, so this week I've hopefully prepared you enough that we're going to be talking about objectively the worst person to ever serve public office in America.
I just feel like you say this frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it this way. The worst person who ever served public office in America that I know of.
Okay.
You can make an argument for Andrew Jackson, but I will say this, the person we're talking about today had a more of a first person interaction with the events that happened rather than, say, Andrew Jackson telling people to go kick people off their land and resulting in thousands of deaths.
Sure. Yeah, different degrees. I just feel like we just went through the Missouri Republican lineup and now you're telling me this is the worst person. I just feel like there's a lot of worsts.
True. I mean, we do actually have a bit of fun news on that today. It's probably going to be old news by Friday. So Trump decided to announce his endorsement for the GOP race in Missouri. He has endorsed Eric, capital letters. And as you'll remember, there are two Erics running.
He probably was thinking of his son.
Oh my God.
Like, of the Trump men progeny, which are you most likely to hug?
Yeah, that's Eric.
He's like, Eric. All
that's
right.
Eric, yeah. I hate that it's so funny that if it's on purpose, it's very fucking funny. God damn. Yeah. Oh, I completely forgot. So, listener and former guest of the show, John Steins, who you might remember did the Lyndon LaRouche bits back when we did that 7-parter of Joy, sent me some notes on things that we screwed up talking about Catholicism.
Hey!
So, on the question as, can you be a priest after being married or having kids? The answer is someone can become a priest after having been married or having kids if the kids are grown and independent and the wife has passed away. And you cannot have been divorced. So essentially you have to have no familial ties.
Ooh, okay.
And two, what is a deacon? John says a deacon is essentially a half priest. They can assist with masses and whatnot, but cannot consecrate the host and make it communion. However, they can be married and they can have kids.
Huh.
Yeah.
A little demi-priest action.
Yeah. So yeah, those are things we messed up. If anyone else has any other notes on Catholicism we screwed up during that two-parter, please let us know.
I love being dragged about the religion I've been baptized in.
Yes. So with that put aside, today we're going to be talking about a dude by the name of Andrew Kehoe. Andrew was born in 1872 in Tecumseh, Michigan. His paternal grandparents moved their family of 8 to Maryland during the Great Potato Famine in Ireland. And when Andrew's dad, Philip, was of age, he would leave for the Michigan Territory and buy a patch of farmland in Tecumseh, one of the first 3 settlements of the future state that allowed Irish to show up and not be kicked out.
We're here. We're Irish. We're still drunk.
Yep, we're mortally wounded inside at all times. So eventually the rest of the Kehoe family would join him. Tecumseh would end up being a very incredibly welcoming settlement, not just for Irish Catholics, but also Germans as well. So it was a really good melting pot for the people who usually got kicked a lot in the early days of America.
Just for liking the Pope.
Look, we talked about the Pope. We made it clear. So as for Philip, he raised cattle, grew some crops, and married a woman by the name of Mary Malone. The couple would have 2 daughters, but Mary suffered complications during the second birth and died a week later. And not to waste time, Philip remarried that year to Mary McGovern. During the first 8 years of marriage, they had 4 daughters. And then by 1872, they got their very first son in Andrew. Now, they'd round out their family with 2 more daughters and an extra son. But Andrew had won the birthing lottery because at this point, it was still really important to be the firstborn son.
Oh, yeah.
And tradition meant that Andrew was set to inherit everything that Philip had made when Philip died. All he had to do was wait. But you know, you might as well do some stuff in the meantime, have a childhood, grow up, I suppose.
Right, maybe learn a thing.
I mean, it would help. Andrew would attend a small farmhouse school learning the basics. But his true passion was something he discovered outside of school, electricity. Supposedly, this kid was an absolute prodigy and self-taught himself how to make these little electro gadgets designed to make work easier around the farm.
Well, potatoes in his blood, so he's got to put some wires in that.
Look, I have a 50 potato battery. It's working great. I could pick up. Now, radio wasn't around then, so I don't even know what it would be.
What? Yeah, what would you do?
Like a tiny little cart to pull sticks. Yeah, so I didn't get any examples as to what he made, but supposedly the neighbors were very impressed, which, I mean, I would be if I didn't realize electricity was a thing and then some kid is making these magical designs. I would probably be both amazed and try to burn him at the stake.
Yeah, I was just going to say, burn him for a witch!
Yeah, it's burn him for making things easier. I hate that he's smart.
This is what Catholicism does.
God damn it. Guys, that's an English thing to do. This isn't an Irish thing to do. Come on.
Those crazy papists.
When Andrew was 10, the health of his mother began to decline. It isn't specified what she had, but it is described as, quote, a disease of the nervous system. I tried to track down what that could possibly be or what that was a euphemism for, but I couldn't find anything. But eventually, Mary would be relegated to bed rest for 7 years. And in 1890, Mary would die. As he had before, Philip would remarry fairly quickly. This time, it seemed more utilitarian due to Philip now being 60 and dealing with extreme arthritis. So he couldn't really do farm work or walk without being in severe pain. But where it gets gross again is that his new wife, Frances Wilder, was 3 years younger than Andrew. And Andrew at the time of this marriage was 18.
Oh no.
Yeah. So not good.
And Andrew's like, Dad, you married the one woman in town. I'm 18.
Like, I don't want to call this person mom. It's very awkward, sir. But yeah, that's a really good point. The town is small enough that there had to be a limited amount of people in, I don't know, junior year at this school.
Like you said, like in terms of like progeny, you're good. You're done, sir.
Yeah. Which initially led me to believe it's like, oh, it's a young body to help him move around the house. But no, they had kids. They would eventually have kids.
Sure. Yeah. Good Irish family.
So Philip would build a brand new brick home just for Frances that he and the remaining family would move into. Meanwhile, Frances and Andrew decided to build just a complete animosity towards each other. Now, it's not entirely clear why they didn't get along, even though I'm sure assumptions could be made.
Yeah.
I mean, Una, how would you feel if suddenly you had a 15-year-old mom?
No.
Not great.
It's not great.
So part of it might have been having to call a high school sophomore his mother, but it might have also been anger at his dad remarrying so fast because Andrew did very much like his mother.
No.
But no one would really know, for a while at least. We're going to come to a theory, but we got to wait a couple decades to really talk about it.
Yes.
So Andrew had enough of his dad's child bride, and he decides, you know what, I'm running away from home to college. He entered Michigan State University to study electrical engineering. But for some reason, he decided he was going to transfer to college in St. Louis within about a year or two. And I think it might have been just to get further away from Frances, just to get a couple states between them.
Yeah.
Now, it's assumed that he got his degree because he would go on to work in the St. Louis area as an electrician for a while, until one fateful and vague day between 1895 and 1905.
That's a spread. Okay.
Yeah. Most of his life between Michigan State and returning to Michigan is just a blur. And the only reason we know this one detail is one of his sisters told a reporter what had happened during this time. So at some point, Andrew ends up falling into a coma for about 2 weeks due to a massive head injury. It could potentially be he fell from a ladder, but the more likely reason is that he electrocuted himself while working.
I was just going to say, yeah, that seems like it.
So he's going in and out of a coma for 2 weeks, and he'd finally wake up and go right back to work. But this time, he wasn't really able to keep jobs for a long period of time. He ends up leaving St. Louis, moves from town to town, with his last verifiable job being as a lineman in Iowa. And their whole job is to fix telephone lines and things like that. So following Iowa, Andrew would come back home to Michigan and move back in with his dad and his hated stepmother. It had been 15 years since he left, so at least Frances is now 30. So that's a win.
A perfectly good mom age.
Yeah, with your 75-year-old husband. I'm sure it's fine. But his dad's arthritis and health had declined heavily. He relied entirely on Frances and could only move with the use of a cane, which is all the more wild to know that only 3 years prior to Andrew moving back, they had had a brand new daughter.
Damn.
Either way, now that Andrew was home, he gave up on electrical work entirely and just dedicated himself to working the family farm, pulling up tree stumps, getting rid of rocks and things like that. So he's mostly just doing a lot of manual work around the home, essentially acting like the person who owns the farm, but not. So the animosity between Andrew and Frances also changed, in that it got severely worse. And as the relationship got worse, so did Andrew's with his own dad. A theory as to why the anger grew even stronger that historian Arnie Bernstein posits, and he's also the guy who I am relying very heavily on this, his book, which I'll say the title of later, is a lot of his work is very important for this story. But he posits that the main reason that he believes Andrew gave up his job is because he figured at minimum, I'm going to get the farm and it's going to be fine. But when he got home, he realized, oh, Francis is going to live longer than me. Like my dad, judging by the state that he's in, he is not very long for the world at all. And when his dad dies, the farm's going straight to Francis. He's completely cut out at that point.
No.
And so with knowing that, it would take a real tragedy for anything to change. So on September 17th, 1911, and you know it's bad because we have an exact date when those have been few and far between in Andrew's story so far. So Francis is getting ready to start making lunch. And with building the new home, Philip had sprung for a huge fuel-powered oven that took up a chunk of the kitchen. Imagine just a giant cast iron black stove that has like a huge fuel storage above it, and you have like a place where you could put in wood if you want to do a wood thing. It's big fuck off, and you're never going to move it again after it's in the house.
Hell yeah, queen shit.
Yes. So the problem with it, though, is that Frances had to light the pilot light each time she used it. So you light the pilot light, you turn on the fuel, start the burner, you can start to make lunch. And it's something that she'd done for years, so she was just really used to using it anyway. But for some reason this time, when she lit the pilot light, a tornado of fire burst from the oven and engulfed Frances. According to Arnie, it was reported she screamed and ricocheted off the walls, eventually leaving the kitchen and entering the hallway. Philip ran there as quickly as he could, as did their youngest daughter, who was now 9, both of them witnessing Frances just covered in fire. And Andrew runs in as fast as he could, sees Frances on fire, and grabs a bucket of water and throws it on her. This is the worst thing Andrew could have done.
No, it's a grease fire, isn't it?
It is an oil-based fire, Una.
No.
For those of you who don't know, and it's very helpful to know, if you have a grease fire, what you typically need to use is flour or baking soda because it's gonna stuff out the fire very quickly. What water does when it hits an oil-based flammable is it just spreads it out into a thin layer that's impossible to get rid of.
You might as well just like cover yourself with napalm. It's as bad.
Yeah. And so Andrew douses her in a bucket of water. It gets worse. So I have no idea how, but eventually they put out the fire. And Frances is covered in 4th-degree burns, which is something I did not know existed until now. I thought it went up to 3. 4th-degree burns means that your skin is charred black and the damage is extended into muscle, tissue, and bone.
Oh, I'm going to be sick.
Yeah, I'm mad that Wikipedia had pictures.
No!
So she's alive after it gets put out.
How?
I don't know, because the only treatment once you have 4th-degree burns is amputation of the affected area. And it's all of her at this point. So Andrew carries Frances to her bed and then left with his youngest sister, who is nine, to go to the neighbors to find the nearest phone because the Kehoes do not have a phone. So they drive on down to their neighbors, the Murphys. And according to Hetty Murphy, that day she heard a casual knock on the front door, as if just strolling company is coming by. She opens up the door to see Andrew Kehoe just standing on the porch, not a care in the world. And he asked if she could call a doctor. And Hetty asked if someone who was sick, and Andrew said, no, Franny got burned. And Hetty would say that the way that he said it made her think that Frances had spilled boiling water on herself or something. That is, until he also asked Hetty to call a priest.
Jesus Christ.
A doctor and a priest would arrive, and the doctor pretty much just gave it all up to the priest, knowing there was nothing he could do. Priest gave Frances her last rites, and she eventually passed later that day.
Oh, God, in agony, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. Arnie's book is really, really good. The one complaint I have is he does not skimp on the gory details. Like, it's very much there to make you feel how fucked up it is. And yeah, Frances is bad. It's very bad. Now, there isn't any proof whatsoever that Andrew sabotaged the oven to kill Frances. Yes, he had a motive. Yes, he's a very good electrical engineer and totally knew how to do something like that. But there is no evidence at all that he killed someone he fucking hated and stood in the way of his inheritance. He's also dead, so I don't have to say allegedly. So that's
yay.
So in the wake of Frances's death, Philip's health declined even further. and Andrew was there to take care of him and mend the feud that had once been between them, essentially guaranteeing that the farm, no matter what, was going to be Andrew's. And Una, I know what you're thinking. Where's the romance?
What? No, that is not what I was thinking.
A year after the horrific death of his stepmother, Andrew would decide, you know what, it's time to rekindle an old college relationship. Nellie Price had been a student at Michigan State when Andrew attended, and the two dated briefly while they were there. And Arnie Bernstein makes a very funny point that, you know, it's dating in quotation marks because it's early 1900s dating, where I'm sure it's just like, I would cordially like to invite you to the spring formal. And that in and of itself is a whole date.
Right. There's no touching. There's a chaperone 8 paces behind at all times.
Oh, you went to the box social? Are you married now?
Basically.
Yeah. So they like kind of dated, and Andrew's like, I should call up Nellie. I should see what she's doing. I should recreate the early 2000s version of Facebook stalking and see what she's doing.
I'm a poker, but in 1911 or so.
Hey, Telegraph Man, can you do a poke?
Telegraph, 3 letters, WYD, full stop.
Telegraph Man, ask if she is up. I know you deliver during the day. It's a silly question, but I have to start somewhere.
What are your nightly rates?
Oh my God. You know, back when I did sketch comedy in college, a thing I really wanted to do if we had the budget, where it would just be like the Pony Express delivering a dick pic across the country. The thought of that was so funny to me, but we had no money and no budget.
Right.
Just seemed fun. Anyway, so he calls up old Nellie and, they decide to start dating again. And he's like, you know what? I'm almost 40. I need to wife up. Let's see how things are going. So it turns out Nellie is also single, and the two got into some real adult dating. There was some hand holding. They probably went to a picture show. They did some ankle touching.
Some spicy letters exchanged.
Oh my God. Yeah. Some real Ulysses letters.
Oh God. Yeah,
get some real James Joyce grossness up in here.
Damn. I wasn't going to go there, but you did.
Oh yeah. No, I'm never going to turn down the fact that James Joyce was a perv in letters.
Not even him, his wife.
Oh no, he found someone who was into it, and bless him. Fucking bless him.
I gotta keep this man, and I know just how.
I have to keep this man who writes illegible stories that everyone loves. So Nellie also ends up being a huge catch because her family just so happened to be loaded. Just like the Kehoes, the Prices had also immigrated from Ireland, but instead they moved to the community of Bath, about 70 miles away. Her dad, Patrick, was also a farmer, but in 1908, he moved to Lansing to be closer to his brother, Lawrence. Now, Lawrence was the wealth of the family. Following the Civil War, he got into business, and when the automobile got really big, he opened a factory to make car parts for Henry Ford. Lawrence would run for public office, win a few times, and won the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate in 1916. He'd end up losing that race 56-40 because Democrats just did not do well in the North back then. But his power within Lansing ensured the Price family was well known and very respected. The courtship between Andrew and Nellie would be swift. After 7 months, the two were married. And thanks to a small newspaper clipping, we know that the ceremony was followed by a wedding breakfast for the guests, which sounds baller as fuck.
That was pretty classic, though. It's like you get married in the morning and then you have like cake and punch in the church basement.
I did not know that. I mean, I'm picturing like a Denny's modern breakfast where it's like fucking pancakes. There's an omelet station. Yeah. There's 8 different types of syrups. It's, you want that fresh orange juice? You want that good? Hell yes.
Some boxed Kellogg cereal.
For the kids and the boring adults. Just pouring milk into a small box of Cheerios. But yeah, and so Nellie moved to the Kehoe farm in Tecumseh, where Andrew ran the place and took care of his dad in his waning years. And in 1915, Philip Kehoe would pass, and the family farm was now all Andrew's. So now Andrew is a married property owner, a person who could have voted all the time, if you will.
Yeah.
So what is there left for him to achieve? Well, how about hoarding money?
Oh.
See, the first glimpse of Andrew's miserliness would come a little bit after he and Nellie started attending a nearby Catholic church. It just so happens that the old church was in really bad shape, and the parish decided we're going to tear it down and we're going to build a new one. But the only way that we can build a new one is if we charge members of the congregation an assessment, which, some Catholic churches do really, really good. In New York City, you're getting thousands of collections each week. Any sort of small town church, you're paying for the ramen for the pastor.
Sure.
And so in this case, they're like, we're either going to lose the church or we have to do this. We have to charge you. So each parishioner was given an assessment, and Andrew was given his for the price of $400, which is a little bit more than $10,000 today.
Yeah, that's That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a chunk, but also you're married to Nellie Price, a wealthy heiress.
Mm-hmm.
You have your own farm. You've inherited money from your father. You're good for it. And you've been going to this church. It's the least that God would expect of you.
It's almost like what I wish taxes were like here right now, of like, no, this is what you're worth. So you need to pay for the access to Jesus that we give you.
Don't you make Catholic God mad. Historically, it doesn't work out. So Andrew did the wise thing and just refused to acknowledge that the bill existed.
Oh my God. So it's like us with the UN.
100%. Yes. Yeah. He just filed. It's, if you have creditors after you, it's that whole thing of just like, if I hide it under enough tables, this doesn't exist.
Yep.
So eventually the priest decides he's going to make his way out to the Kehoe farm and see what's up. It's like, it might have gotten lost in the mail. You might be going under tough times. You might be able to figure this out.
Hello, I took a vow of poverty. Hello, is anyone home?
I would like a building to live in, please. The local cave is full of bats, and I don't
Everyone else has paid.
We're waiting on you to build the door.
We need you for the roof.
It's very wet and sad.
I'm very cool.
Soggy, sir. Damn it. So, all right. So the priest shows up at the Kehoe farm, and Andrew answers the door, and it's all cordial for a bit. And then the priest asks, "Hey, so about that assessment, we really kind of need it." And Andrew's personality turns on a dime, looks him in the eye, and says, I'm paraphrasing, "Get the fuck off my property. And if you ever come back, you will pay."
The man's a priest.
Not a name for Andrew anymore. Yeah, and so from that day forward, Andrew never attended church ever again. And he forbade Nellie from ever attending the new church. She could go to a new church anywhere else, but she couldn't go to the rebuilt church where that fucker who wants money is. So, a good, wholesome relationship.
Yeah.
It's always a good sign when your husband bans you from things.
Right, from your religion.
So Andrew also made sure to get into a money fight with one of his few neighbors. At some point, Andrew bought 8 steers from a neighbor and proceeded to pen them in probably one of the worst places he could have on his property, a field of clover. So there's a condition called ruminal tympany, or more commonly known as bloat. And this occurs when cattle eat legumes such as alfalfa, red clover, and white clover. I'm going to try to explain this as best I can because cow anatomy is fucking weird.
So many stomachs.
So many goddamn stomachs. And they like regurgitate shit and eat that. And it goes, cows are dumb. I hate them. They taste good. Fuck them. They fall over and it's funny. Anyway. Essentially, the issue is that clover is really, really easy to ferment, especially when it's in a cow's stomach. This ends up producing gas, which cows usually get rid of by burping. However, if the fermentation process creates a foam, then the foam blocks the gas from escaping, and it continues to build within the organs of the cow until things are bad.
Oh, no.
So the foam is more likely to happen if cows eat clover after a heavy rain. And wouldn't you know it, it rained a ton the night Andrew locked his cows into a field of pure clover. And of the 8, 2 would die that night. Andrew loaded up the 2 who died, sold their hides in town, and then went straight to his neighbor to demand half of his payment back due to faulty cows.
He's the one who let them out onto the clover.
You're right. You're not wrong. And that's essentially what his neighbor told him. It's like, I sold you 8 healthy cows. You're an idiot. You have 6 cows. And the neighbor refused to give him that money, and he became Andrew's bitter enemy for years.
Jesus.
So aside from those 2 cases, others would refer to Andrew and Nellie as very private. They didn't seem to have friends or make many efforts to reach out in the community, but lucky for Andrew, he wouldn't have to deal with that many years in Tecumseh. Nellie's wealthy uncle Lawrence would die in 1917, 1 year after running for Senate, and left behind an 80-acre family estate outside of Bath, Michigan. The home was 3 stories, had a huge front porch, big bay windows, and a field with exceptional soil capable of growing multiple crops. The home initially went to Nellie's uncle Richard, and Andrew made a swift push to buy it. And it would take a couple of years, but a deal would be made to buy the property for $12,000, or about $205,000 today. And just as a bit of bitter fun, I decided to go on Zillow to be like, hey, what are comparable properties in Bath, Michigan today?
Hell yeah.
So there aren't any properties available right now for more than 10 acres. But the closest I could find to the Price family farm is a 10-acre plot that's going for $175,000. But maybe it's just a family deal and I'm being a dick. Or it's, I hate it. I hate it so much. But also, I mean, Nellie also grew up in that house, so I'm sure there might have been some deals to be like, fine, this is Nellie's home. She'll feel better here. It'll be nice to have her back in town. Fuck
yeah, she won't have to get weird stares from this new parish that she has to go to.
You can actually go to church again. So the deal for $12,000 required a $6,000 cash down payment, which Andrew did, and a $6,000 mortgage that he would pay through the family trust. Essentially, like it's a $6,000 mortgage he gets through the estate, and then he slowly pays that back as he can. So Andrew would end up selling his farm in Tecumseh to none other than the man who refused to refund the dead cows. I have no idea how they became friends, or at least purchasing friends.
Business is business.
Look, the worst part of it, reading the story, essentially Andrew put the family farm up. He got a real estate agent to do it. The neighbor who they hate, who hate each other, walks up and was like, hey, you selling your farm? I'd buy it. And Andrew gets furious, being like, why'd you tell me a week ago before I hired the real estate person? You're going to be short like $1,000 now. So yeah, the guy buys the farm and it's all his. But also there was a problem due to the fact that he had about 15 cords of wood still on the property that he couldn't sell, mainly because all the farmers already had a fuck ton of wood and didn't really need more.
Sure.
And to give you an idea, a regular cord is 8 feet long, 4 feet high, and 4 feet wide. So 15 of those. It's a lot of wood.
Okay.
He was able to sell it mainly by browbeating a neighbor and repeatedly going to his house every single day being like, I'm selling it to you for half off. And the neighbor constantly being like, I'm not interested. And Andrew did something at some point, we don't know what, but eventually the neighbor bought it at half price.
But eventually the neighbor woke up with the head of his favorite horse at his feet in bed. And the next day he bought some wood.
Buy my wood. When Andrew got to town in Bath, he made quite the impression. His stuff arrived via train and featured fancy farming equipment and tractors that people in the town had never really used before because it's expensive, and that just isn't the type of town Bath is. He also left behind his isolated nature in Tecumseh and began to take part in multiple events around Bath. And above all, he was friendly, willing to lend a hand, and very well dressed. He would literally wear suits and keep his hair impeccable when he was farming, and would change his dress shirts the moment they began to show sweat. So he is planting corn in a full suit. He is feeding cows in a full suit.
Yeah, and changing like every 15 minutes, it sounds like.
You just about have to. His barn was well kept and clean, and above all, his land was impeccable. Two of the big enemies of farming are tree stumps and boulders, because if you're running a plow and you hit a boulder, it's going to break your plow and you're going to be out on a ton of money. And it's always better to have straight lines and big squares for farming than, having to go around trees and shit. But Andrew, like I said, had a secret weapon, a shit ton of dynamite, and a new explosive called pyritol. Now, pyritol had been invented during World War I, and they had made a lot of it for explosive purposes. But when the war ended, the US government didn't really need it anymore, so they started selling it on the private market.
Here, have fun.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like tannerite, which I think I've brought up a couple times. It's there's something you could mix it with. I don't know what, but it's a compound that when you shoot it, it blows up. And it's supposedly a lot of fun to shoot. So it reminds me of that a little. So booms could be heard very regularly from Andrew's property. And local farmers heard what he was doing. He kind of became their tutor for how to use explosives to clear their land of hazards. Nellie would even join the Friday Afternoon Club, which is a social group for the town where people would meet up, chat, and play the most Midwest game ever, euchre.
Euchre!
Oh, euchre is the best. Euchre, it spans the generations. We played it in high school and study hall. I've played it with aged individuals. It's the best.
It's also one of those things where, like, I always understood it as like a Michigan thing, and I'm thrilled to hear that it was obviously would be, but in Ohio as well. And it just feels like it's like a secret Midwest handshake because no one outside of our little like geographical region knows what the fuck euchre is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm going to try to explain it because it took a while for me to learn it, but then again, I was a kid when I learned it. Yeah. It's essentially like take the game Hearts, cut the deck in more than half, like 3/4 of the deck, add a partner, and have it not suck.
Yeah.
It's a great fun game. It doesn't take that long to play around. Yeah, it's a fun game. So the one thing that this card game did give Andrew was an outlet for the remnants of his temper. The one bad thing folks in town ever had to say was that he seemed to love pointing out mistakes that people made while playing and would go off on his partner if they ever messed up. But I get it. I was once yelled at by a literal 100-year-old woman for trumping her ace when I was 13, and she was right to do so. And that's just how the game goes. It's, little bits of anger followed by complete memory wipe of what just happened.
Yeah.
To the whole town, Andrew Kehoe was a knowledgeable delight with a passion for helping his fellow man so long as it wasn't during euchre. That is except for one person. There was one person who just, kind of from the jump, really wasn't certain about Andrew. Lulu Hart lived across from the Kehoes. When Andrew was moving in, her husband David helped him unload and carry in the furniture. And Lulu became really good friends with Nellie. And since the Kehoes didn't have their own car at the time, she would drive Lulu to Lansing whenever she needed to do some shopping. The Harts also had a terrier that Andrew fucking hated. The dog was allowed to roam all over the Hart property and occasionally made its way over to the Kehoes because it's a terrier. It's gonna run everywhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig up your rhododendrons while at it.
As the owner of a terrier, they are delightful little monsters. Yeah. It's just a sweet little gremlin full of snuggles and loud noises.
As someone who grew up with nothing but terriers and then reaching adulthood and like meeting people with other breeds of dogs that they grew up with, it's like, wait, you mean they don't have to be crazy? You don't have to have crazy in your house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. What a concept.
But your dog's fine with other dogs existing? That's weird. So also as terriers do, the dog barked a ton. And in 1920, Lulu had just returned from a shopping trip to Lansing with Nellie. And now there are a trio of rumors that kind of surface around this, and no one really knows which one is true. The one thing that's similar in all of them is that the little terrier had died either from being shot or poisoned.
Oh my God.
And Lulu was certain that it was Andrew Kehoe that had killed their dog. And from that day on, she never spoke to Andrew ever again and refused to drive Nellie anywhere.
Oh, you were so close to having neighbor friends.
Mm-hmm. Look, it's one woman. He's fine with the rest. Like, here's the thing. Him and David Hart still continue to get on, and we'll talk about that.
Oh my God. Okay.
A good lesson in this is if your significant other tells you not to trust someone and has solid reason behind it, listen. So things would remain fairly calm, at least until 1922. And that year, Emory E. Hike would succeed in creating the first school system in town, the Bath Consolidated School. It would come with a bond to build the facilities totaling about $43,000. The school board had already raised $8,000 for athletic fields and lighting. The remaining $35,000 would come from property taxes. And if anyone's going to love a sudden boost in property tax, it is not going to be Andrew Kehoe. In total, Andrew would be required to pay $147.12, or a little under $2,600 today.
Yeah, for his wealth?
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. So since it was the law, Andrew would end up paying, but you bet your ass he was not happy about it. His whole thing is that if you're going to tax him, then there sure is better be an intense amount of oversight on how that money is spent.
Oh, no.
And in 1924, he had riled up a sizable group of farmers. Unlike Andrew, many farmers were barely making ends meet and couldn't as easily afford the one-time property tax assessment because it is based on the value of the land. And Andrew is already wealthy, and these farmers are probably barely making ends meet during this time. So Andrew became their leading voice at all the school board meetings. And when elections came up in 1924, Andrew entered as the lead opponent to incumbent school board treasurer Enos Peacock. And so the elections for school board is done at this time, not through like individual balloting, but through like a number of people are added, and each ballot you vote until you have a majority percentage. And through each ballot that was done, Andrew led every single vote and ultimately won the position on the 6th ballot and setting himself up for a 3-year tenure controlling the money of the school.
To someone who wouldn't even give a dime to God.
Nope. If God wants it, he can take it.
Pry from my cold, dead hands at St. Peter's gates.
Honestly, one of my favorite passages of Corinthians, so. So now Andrew has power. It's a little power, but in the hands of a man with temper issues and a willingness to create enemies, that could kind of turn into a lot of headache. And it didn't take Andrew long to figure out who his real nemesis in all this was. The man who got the school kickstarted in the first place and who was now the superintendent, Emory Hike. For Andrew, Emory's first mistake was that he was present at all the school board meetings. And this isn't something that the majority of the school board minded, but Andrew felt that the only reason he was there was to butt in on the work of the school board. And he would make it clear that Emory should busy himself with running the school and leave the big decisions to the board. The problem, though, is that the majority of the board had to consistently remind Andrew that Michigan law required Emory to be there in the first place, so he couldn't just go. And if they did kick him out, they were going to lose out on state funds that they had worked so very hard to get in the first place. And while Emory was entirely focused on making the school as good as it could be for the students, Andrew just wanted to take Emory down as many notches as possible. The feeling I kind of get is that Andrew's the sort of dude who puffs his chest, and if you don't show immediate deference, he is going to take offense to that for the rest of time. And Emery just didn't react with all due respect. And now this guy has to fucking pay.
Oh my God.
I also want to note that at this time, Emery is in his early 30s.
Oh, so he's young. He's hip.
He is a baby who just wants to make a school. Ultimately, this would lead to awkward public interactions with Andrew, and Andrew successfully pushed to cut Emery's paid vacation and yearly raise by half.
Damn, what a dick.
He also fought to try to end nepotism within the board when it came to school contracts, which, admittedly, that's a problem. There was one thing where a member of the school board got, I believe, as his uncle to be the school bus driver, and it's not like he did a bad job, but Andrew just hated it on principle. But since everyone on the board had gotten their family jobs in the school, they really weren't that keen to end it. So that was the one thing Andrew would rail about that no one cared.
Amazing. Too entrenched.
The thing, though, is when Andrew got mad, he would pull the same bullshit move and just adjourn for the meeting to be ended, which no one ever seconded. So he's just like throwing little temper tantrums.
No.
So while this might be enough to get him removed, he was actually extremely valuable to the school. Due to his background in electrical engineering and deep knowledge of carpentry, he was often asked to do the construction work for the building. He was given free rein to enter the school whenever he needed, and succeeded in rewiring the whole building, installing plumbing, putting in tiling, and eradicated a swarm of bees that had been hibernating in the heating system, which is something that Hike had tried to do twice and failed. So Andrew loved to go in and eradicate them in one attempt.
I feel like the bees were like, oh, fuck, get away from this guy. Jesus.
Hear what this guy did to his mom?
Oh my God.
Funny story. I believe Bath High School, as of right now, does call themselves the Bees.
Oh, I'm sure. This is great.
But most importantly, though, was his actual job as treasurer, because never once was his accounting ever off. He was so good that when the job of town clerk became available due to a sudden passing of the office holder, the local Republican Party asked if he'd be open to taking the appointment. And he agreed, making him the Bath Township clerk in 1925.
Bum, bum, bum.
The thing, though, is word of how hard Andrew was to work with eventually got back to the local GOP. And when the 1926 election for township clerk was up, they decided they're going to nominate someone else. He was informed of this choice ahead of time, but he still showed up to the nomination meeting and sat there in stone silence with Nellie the entire time.
Look me in the eyes and fire me.
I would at least look Emery Hike in the fucking eye when I throw a bunch of bees at him. Andrew would try for office again in 1927, this time running for the Clinton County Justice of the Peace, which I'd always assumed was like a cop job. But after doing a little research, it's more of like a judge for the lowest level of criminal violations. If someone's caught, speeding in traffic or disorderly conduct or shoplifting, you go to a Justice of the Peace. And it's just the sort of position that Andrew would probably love for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Well, wait. So the same person who's getting you like a quick marriage certificate is also taking care of like light shoplifting?
Yep, pretty much.
Huh. I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a fun, cushy semi-retirement gig of just like, you're married now. Yay.
I think it changes state to state, but this is essentially what it was for him at the time.
Fair enough.
So he ends up winning the GOP primary, but got heavily defeated in the general election by the Democratic candidates. Following this public refusal to give him power, something in Andrew shifted. The visage he'd fought like hell to create, and only seen through by Lulu Hart and Emery Hike, cracked under the weight of being denied what he believed was rightfully his. David Hart would be the first to see this public change. Following the election, David would go over to see Andrew and ask to borrow a seat for his wagon. When he got there, he found Andrew working in the field, spreading manure for the crops. Now, the manure spreader was being pulled by his horses, who, when David arrived, were being massively abused, and they were clearly exhausted. They were foaming at the mouth. They were in clear distress. And this just seemed to piss off Andrew even more, who just continued to beat them even harder, even when David was watching. And seeing this, David figured, I'll ask tomorrow. So David goes back the next day, and he sees a truck from the local rendering company there, and finds out one of the horses had died in the night, and Andrew wasted no time in selling him to be turned into glue. David offered his condolences, and Andrew snapped back, quote, he ought to have been killed years ago. So he's a little mad. Meanwhile, in school board meetings, because he's still the treasurer,
great,
Andrew continued to lose his temper. One of Emery's biggest goals was to get the Bath Consolidated Schools accredited, which would reward them with state funds, but required them to hit some goals set by the University of Michigan. These goals would often mean spending to purchase new books for students, encyclopedias for the library, and modern tools to teach home economics and shop. They even demanded playground equipment. And to Andrew, this was nothing more than out-of-control spending and a waste of money. He would fight every requirement set by the University of Michigan and accused Emery of trying to completely usurp the board and take complete control over the property tax funds. decisions. And he also felt slighted by the University Accreditation Board not meeting with the school board and doing all their work through Superintendent Hike like they were supposed to. And to make things somehow even worse, Andrew's private life was also starting to fall apart.
You don't say!
In 1926, Nellie would begin to suffer from horrific headaches, severe cough, and a sudden loss of weight. She'd go to a hospital in Lansing where they initially diagnosed her with tuberculosis, but that diagnosis would be changed to asthma. And from what I've read, it seems like their first guess was the right one.
Oh.
But she's going to be going forward being treated for asthma instead.
Oh, no.
The thing, though, is there really wasn't that much of a cure for tuberculosis at the time, so it's not like it would have changed much of anything, and they probably felt like they could do more if it's asthma, so let's pretend it's this. But this sudden disease also wasn't the only thing that Nellie would discover that year. The attorney for the Lawrence Price estate called Nellie, and typically the two never really spoke that much, and the lawyer would just send her regular $500 checks paid out of the estate fund, sort of like a trust fund that she'd get monthly. And this time the lawyer was curious if Nellie would be fine if her usual check actually went to the mortgage on their home this time. And she said, yeah, that's totally fine, but why? Andrew's been paying that this whole time. I mean, he has been paying it this whole time, right?
No.
Andrew hadn't paid the mortgage since 1921 for 5 years, and he had ignored all attempts by the attorney to bring payments up to date. And the only thing that was keeping them from being foreclosed was the good name of the Price family and general love of Nellie.
Ah!
And Nellie was like, okay, now that I know that, yes, put the check to the mortgage. That's totally fine. So the lawyer changed the name to the receipt for the pay off the mortgage, and it seemed to be a done deal. And it was their first payment in 5 years. And yay, we're back. We're going to keep the home, probably. And when Andrew found out, he sued to have the check returned.
Because if I'm not giving a dime to God, I'm sure as hell not giving a dime to these lawyer assholes.
Oh my God.
This corporal bank.
What are you going to do? Kick me out of the house? I am the house.
What are you going to do? Excommunicate me? I am God.
You know who I am. I was town clerk for a year. I'm Andrew fucking Kehoe.
I will electrify you.
A probate hearing would be called to settle the matter. It was assumed that the Price estate lawyers and Andrew's lawyer would come to a decision together, and there's really no reason to prolong this. It's very clear what needs to happen. But without being told the time or location of the hearing, Andrew and Nellie arrived.
He just showed up.
So things went forward, and both sides agreed that the estate didn't have the right to switch over the check. They didn't have the legal authority to do that. But it's really in the best interest of the Kehoes to allow all this to slide just once, and you could figure it out for the rest of time. Andrew was given this option, and he refused. So they had no option but to write a brand new check for Andrew for $500 and leave that as the end of the issue. The Price family attorney would try for a couple of months to set up a mortgage payment plan, but when no further payments were made and all attempts at contact were ignored, he had no choice but to begin foreclosure proceedings on the property. He would run into Nellie's sister after sending the foreclosure notice and promise that, look, I'm not actually trying to kick them out. I just need Andrew to realize what's actually at stake here. And if I could just scare him into doing something, then we can move on from there. I am willing to make this work.
I'm just trying to show that actions lead to consequences.
Right. And so we told this to Nellie's sister, and she said, her health is so bad right now, I don't think that's a good idea. It's going to make things worse for her. So please cancel this as quickly as you can. And the attorney sees some sense in that, writes to the local sheriff and says, hey, if I need you to not deliver this foreclosure statement to the home. And the telegraph to get him to stop doing that arrives late, and the sheriff delivers the foreclosure letter to Andrew.
Ooh.
So the sheriff remembers that when presented with the foreclosure, Andrew simply said, quote, if it hadn't been for that $300 school tax, I might have paid off the mortgage.
But you didn't send a single check. So I know.
Yeah, and Nellie is getting $500 on a regular basis. You have a large farm with tons of crops. You have animals. You have 2 jobs. You are the town clerk. You are the treasurer for the school district, sir.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You could probably be a card shark and like play euchre for petty cash. At the very least, there are options. And
you have an attorney who is willing to work with you, who just wants a payment in good faith to start things off. But nope. He, it's that damn school tax. Urgh.
Taxes.
For some reason, he's bumped it up to $300 when it was actually around $150. But whatever.
Oh my God.
So all of that aside, there's clearly venues for Andrew to be making money. But David Hart actually has a bit of a counterpoint for that. because he would start to actually notice a lot of the things that Lulu had been telling him for the past few years. And mainly that as Nellie's health started to decline, he started to get really weird with how he operated his farm. As in, yeah, he's still wearing suits and smoking jackets to plant and spread manure. But when it comes time to harvest, he's not doing anything. The crops are literally rotting in the field.
I mean, like, I just want to pause and acknowledge the fact that this man does not have a background in farming.
That is, that is true. That is true.
He didn't finish out at Michigan State University.
Yeah.
He left for an electrical engineering degree.
Yeah. Well, which he was studying in Michigan State too, but I get the point still stands. Like, I doubt his father was teaching him many ins and outs aside from dynamite, fix, stump. But I figure at some point him or his neighbors would be like, hey, you need to actually pick up your crops at the end.
Sure. Yeah. Aside from the obvious, I also just want to point out, it's like, we're not all made for farming. Like, he got the goal of getting a farm.
The thing though is I didn't include this just because I didn't know if this would come up or not. He was widely respected by all the farmers in the area of having a deep knowledge on new farming techniques. He would teach at the Grange. He would speak on multiple issues. He knew what to do. He just didn't do it.
Oh, amazing.
And part of it might have been too that his dad, Philip, was also a bit of a penny pincher as well. And Philip was a huge proponent that places where you sell your crops shouldn't dictate the price. That should be up to the farmers to get together and figure out, hey, how much are we going to bring on each day so we know we can get this price and control the market that way. And so Andrew might have just not been selling because he'd never thought any of the prices for his crops were ever good.
Yeah, I'm very willing to believe that.
Yeah, a man who wants money back for dead cattle and cannot take no for the supply and demand of wood.
I grew this in a smoking jacket.
You can taste the quality, sir. I don't let my wife go to church so it's good. And so David kind of notes this, and other neighbors start to notice that his attitude is going from, whimsically eccentric to just kind of ominous. But you know what? It's almost 1927. New year, new Andrew. And on New Year's Eve, the town of Bath was very busy having multiple celebrations. There's not fireworks aren't really a big thing right now, but teenagers are at a sock hop. There's birthdays going on. People's having a great time.
Yeah, the economy is going gangbusters across land.
It's always going to be great. And then right at midnight, a fuck ton of explosions go off on the Kehoe farm.
Oh no.
So no one's hurt. And when asked about it, Andrew says it's just kind of how he decided to celebrate the new year, just blowing up a ton of dynamite. And look, I had a bit of a redneck upbringing. I kind of get it.
Yeah, I don't not get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even set up a timer to make sure that all of the dynamite blew up at exactly at midnight.
Ooh, that's the electrical engineer.
Yeah, he's getting back into it. He's coming back to make doodads and gizmos and such. By February 1927, Andrew was still delinquent on his mortgage payments. But even worse, Nellie was repeatedly in and out of hospital visits. So as for the mortgage, Andrew would end up getting 3 different offers on the farm from different people. But each time he'd either turn them down or the buyer would back out due to the property taxes. By May, Andrew was mostly alone on the farm. Nellie was in the hospital in Lansing dealing with persistent coughs, body aches, and blinding headaches. He would drive out often to be with her, but always returned home around dark. The thing though, his neighbors started to notice that with each trip, he would leave with an empty truck bed and return loaded with something covered under a tarp.
Oh, no.
On May 16th, he would pick up Nellie from the hospital and tell her sisters that he would be driving her to Jackson, Michigan to stay with some friends. Instead, he drove her home, which isn't, the weirdest thing. I mean, it's their home and it's 2 days prior to their 15th wedding anniversary, so maybe they're going there and then going to Jackson. But on the 17th, David Hart would come to visit Andrew with a guy who was interested in buying one of Andrew's horses. He asked Nellie how she was doing, and Andrew said she's much better after visiting her sisters in Lansing.
Oh no, what's going to happen?
So this horse in particular also has a bit of ominous stuff. There's a neighbor that Andrew tried to sell the horse to. The horse was pretty high in age. He's blind in one eye, and he tried to sell him to a neighbor. And the neighbor was like, I don't really need a horse. I really can't afford a horse. I appreciate it, but I don't really need it. And one day Andrew shows up just with the horse and with a saddle. And he's like, here's your horse. And the guy's like, oh, this is a gift. This is a lovely gift. And he accepts the horse. Things are going great. And Andrew comes by about a week later and he's like, hey, stay for dinner. Have some fun. So they stay for dinner. They go out on the front porch to, while away the evening. And Andrew reaches in his pocket and hands the guy a receipt for the horse for $120.
Oh my God. For a nearly blind old horse?
And the guy is just like blindsided by all of this. And he's talking to David Hart, just like, I don't know what to do. I thought this was free. This is awkward now. I don't know how he's going to react when do I take the horse back when he's not there and leave a note? Yeah. Do I actually bring it back when he's there? And eventually the neighbor ends up building up enough courage to do this, takes the horse back. And of course, Andrew's there. And he's like, God, I'm really sorry. This is a great horse. I wish I could keep it. I can't pay you this much money for the horse. And Andrew's actually kind of calm about it. He accepts the horse back and is like, you're going to really wish you took this horse one day.
Oh.
So when this guy comes by, he's like, yeah, I want to buy the horse. Andrew is like asking for double the price of what the guy's willing to pay for it. The guy's willing to pay $60. Andrew wants $120, and Andrew will not budge. He won't fucking budge on this fucking horse that deserves to be in a home to just trot around.
Yeah.
And the guy just eventually leaves and is like, your neighbor's weird. I'm going to buy that horse. So on May 18th, Andrew would start his day by driving a large crate to the rail depot that needed to be shipped as soon as possible to an insurance broker in Lansing named Clyde Smith. Clyde had been the guy who had done the bond for the school to begin with. And the crate that he was sending was sent off with care thanks to these stenciled words, high explosives, dangerous, being stenciled onto the side.
That's great. That's no Chekhov's gun here.
As Andrew left, he ran into a fellow school board member. And apparently a pump at the school was busted, and he wondered if Andrew would be free to go over and fix it with him. Andrew agreed, but when they got there, Andrew hemmed and hawed that the school day was about to start, and since it was 8:25 a.m., they really wouldn't have enough time to fix anything before the students actually showed up. The thing, though, is Andrew kept his watch to Eastern time, and the school used Central. I don't know why he did this.
Why would the school be in Central? This is Michigan.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was it just pre-standardized?
I think it was it's not that weird area where it's just enough on the time zone border that really either could count, I guess.
Is it?
I don't know, honestly. I should have looked that up, but
no, the line starts with Chicago. We're on the line.
No, it's further east of here. It's middle of Indiana, I thought.
I mean, Indiana, we got to throw Indiana out because
Chicago.
That's Indiana. Indiana plays by its own weird rules.
Fair enough.
But all
I forgot they do.
All of Michigan is in Eastern Standard Time Zone.
Okay, then all right.
And that is
wrong.
Central Michigan.
Yeah, it is.
all of these towns are uncomfortably close to where I grew up.
All right, fine. You're right. Andrew's right in this instance. You're happy? Are you happy that Andrew Kehoe's right? But yeah, for some reason, the school's using Central Time. Lord, maybe the University of Michigan told them to. I'm going with that. And so they get there, and the person who's with Andrew is like, nah, man, it's Central Time, so it's 7:25. We can go in there. We have plenty of time. So they agree, and they go in the basement to look. So the school board member, and the school janitor looked it over. But after a few minutes, Andrew suddenly said that he was awfully busy and just left. And the two would also end up giving up because not only was the pump broke, but so was the school generator. And they figured they really couldn't do much more until the repairman showed up to fix the generator and they could see. The school day began without electricity, but most students really didn't care due to summer break being about a week away. And I don't really know a good way to segue into this, so here it is. The reason that Andrew was so concerned that he was at the school at 8:25 was that there was an alarm in the basement set to go off at 8:45 Central Time. The clock would cause a spark that would ignite the blasting caps attached to loads of dynamite and pyritol that Andrew had been buying and sneaking into the school for the past month. Andrew Kehoe had bombed the Bath Consolidated School in the middle of the school day, and an estimated 230 to 275 students were in class at that time.
I've heard of this story.
Yeah.
Few people have, but it's crazy.
Yeah. At the exact same time, Lulu Hart heard an explosion from across the street. She ran outside and found the Kehoe's corn crib on fire. She ran to get David, and when they both got to the front yard, the barn had been engulfed in flames. Smoke started pouring from the home as more and more blasting caps went off. Lulu began to run over, but David grabbed her and seemingly without even thinking said, "Don't go over there." Andrew certainly did it himself. Always listen to your wife or significant other.
Believe her.
Yes. So back at the school, a third of the building had been destroyed. Emery Hike was in the assembly room observing senior exams when the walls and roof shook. He could only make his way to the roof of the building where students had escaped, pleading with them not to risk jumping off to try to get to safety. And many students ignored him. Some were fine, and some ended up with broken legs, but a decent chunk were able to get away. The whole of the town at this point is running to the school en masse. Back at the Kehoe farm, neighbors and a team of linemen who'd been putting in telephone poles had surrounded the home. Some of the linemen got inside to see if they could save anyone and help save whatever furniture they could grab. The team went in, started pulling out like an armoire, a chest of drawers, and then the head of the team grabbed a box and handed it to another guy. And as he handed it to him, he realized, I just picked up a box of dynamite. And as soon as that happened, he immediately ordered everyone the fuck out of the house as quickly as possible. Boxes of dynamite continued to go off intermittently, but one neighbor noticed someone walking amongst all the flame and chaos. This figure, behind all the smoke, got into a truck, backed it up, and drove off to town. And the truck approached the neighbors and stopped. Andrew Kehoe leaned out the window and said, quote, "Boys, you're my friends. You better get out of here. You better go down to the school." And then Andrew just drove off towards the school. He would pass a number of people. One person in particular said they saw him and saw both rows of teeth as he smiled.
Oh.
Back at the school, Emery had gotten townsfolk to bring ladders and ushered the students towards them, before finally making his way to the ground after everyone had been saved. He then immediately rushed in and out of the school to start rescuing students and is known to be the first person to pull someone out of the school. People in nearby homes opened their doors to become makeshift hospitals. Bed sheets and clothes were donated to become bandages. Coffee and sandwiches were rushed to the site for everyone clearing debris, rescuing students, and worst of all, discovering the volume of how many had died. The field next to the school slowly became an official morgue, and this all happened within 15 minutes of the explosion. Emery would eventually make his way to the town's communications center to ring up the neighboring towns for help. The Lansing Fire Department would be on the scene within 12 minutes after they got the call. And once Emery was satisfied that as many people as he could call were called, he went right back to the school. But he would make a brief stop at the home across from the school that had taken the bulk of children who had been wounded and wanted to make sure that they could accommodate a few more. And they could, and Emery made his way back to the school and got there just in time to see an old pickup truck speed up to the school and screech to a stop. Emery turned and saw Andrew Kehoe, who called Emery over to the truck. Emery rushed over and told Andrew they really needed his help to help pull away heavy equipment. And Kehoe replied, quote, "All right, I'll take you with me." Emery went white and replied, quote, "You know something about this, don't you?" And Andrew pulled out his Winchester rifle and shot a crate of dynamite in the back of his truck, which had been surrounded by old farm equipment and whatever shrapnel Kehoe could pack into the bed of the truck. The explosion immediately killed Emery and Andrew, as well as 3 others, including a second grader who'd been pulled from the rubble.
Oh.
And when all was said and done, 35 students ranging from 3rd to 12th grade and 2 teachers would be found dead. One of the 2 teachers was 21 years old. The other was 30. Search teams would find about 500 pounds of dynamite under the school that hadn't gone off.
Oh my God.
Enough that if it had, the whole school would have been destroyed in one go. It's kind of believed that Andrew had too much power going through his various blasting caps and connectors that it shorted out halfway through.
Wow.
And ended up saving the school. As for the package Andrew sent at the beginning of the day, it actually never arrived to Clyde Smith because instead of going to Lansing, it went to Langsburg, which is a small town about 9 miles northeast of Bath. The estate ticket service would intercept it and bring it to Lansing to be opened and or destroyed. And when it was finally opened, all that they found were a set of ledger books for the insurance agent and a note from Kehoe stating that he's leaving his position as school board treasurer. And I'm sorry, I'm off by 23 cents.
What?
Yep.
For the mortgage?
Yep. Well, no, for the school. Yeah, for the school loan.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah. It's unfathomable that he ships this in a box marked explosive, clearly telling a joke. He's telling a joke in the cruelest fashion and then genuinely apologizing his numbers are off for the first time in his tenure.
Honestly, why do we have to suffer through a movie like The Joker when someone could just do like a movie version of this dude?
Right? Fucking right. Ugh. So at the Kehoe farm, things were different, but also awful. Andrew had ruined the trees and grapevines on his property so that they'd never be able to grow again. In the barn where he kept his horses, when the flames had gone out, they found wire bound around the horses' legs to make sure that they couldn't run while the farm burned down. The only thing that Andrew had created in all this destruction was a simple wood sign that he hung on a fence at the edge of his property that simply said, quote, "Criminals are made, not born."
What is this psycho?
Oh, it's a woe is me bullshit. How dare you make me pay a tax? How dare you hold me accountable accountable for mortgage. Everyone should just worship the fucking ground I walk on. I'm Andrew fucking Kehoe.
You know what happened? He didn't pay that $400 and God left him.
Right? Fucking right. Ugh. Nellie's body would be discovered the day after the bombings, resting in a makeshift wheelbarrow. Due to the fire, her body was completely destroyed. And no one really knows how Andrew killed her, but it was clear that he did sometime in between her returning from the hospital and before this act of terror. And to get even fuckier, if the catalyst of all this was the school tax made it impossible to pay his mortgage, officers found more than enough forgotten farm equipment that he clearly hadn't used for years that if he had sold even for half price, would have paid the fucking mortgage completely. Also found in the wheelbarrow with Nellie's body were like a number of keepsakes and necklaces and jewelry and things like that, but also a pile of war bonds that very well might also have been able to pay for the chunk of money that he owed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In 1928, the destroyed wing of the Bath School would be torn down and rebuilt. During the construction, dynamite was found on 3 more occasions. In 1975, the school would be officially torn down, and it's now a park dedicated to the victims, with the couple of the school being placed at the center. And it's a really, really horrific story. It's a really tough book to read, like the official book that I'm basing this on because I didn't want to give it away too much. Bath Massacre, America's First School Bombing by Arnie Bernstein. There are just so many stories of children and adults making their way through this and just suffering with the horrors that had been created by this petulant piece of shit who just never wanted a consequence. And you kind of can go back to the head injury that he sustained while he was an electrician. I mean, there's a lot to say that traumatic brain injury can kind of kickstart a lot of psychopathic and violent behavior, but I really also don't want to let him off the hook for that.
Yeah.
He's just, I guess I'll end it with this. As millennials, we often get told that it's, post-Columbine, that it's like music or video games or the deterioration of social morals that bring about these shootings at schools. And, it's kind of all we heard after Columbine and all the other shootings that happened. And I kind of started looking into this stuff a bit after it happened because part of me was just very angry that people were so willing to blame our generation for what had happened. And just kind of making it seem like, oh, you're just a violent generation full of terrible people. And then stumbling upon this. This terrible act of terror enacted by a grown-ass man that still to this day is the most deadly attack on a school in the history of the entire world, not counting war.
Right. And again, I grew up not that far from Bath, and it wasn't until post-college when I was working on the admin side of the MSU history department that I even heard about the story.
It's insanely frustrating that such an awful moment of history has just been completely relegated and forgotten.
It's also one of those things where it's like, we should absolutely be learning about the story because it's a terrorist attack. And guess who's the terrorist? An angry white dude.
Yeah, a dude just full of toxic masculinity who does not want to be told no ever, potentially had killed before, showed multiple signs of that with violence to animals, and was just like, his weird eccentricities of violence were considered charming for so many people except the one person who saw through it.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess a good finish too is like, so Nellie would be picked up by her 3 sisters, would be buried in her family plot under her former name, Nellie Price.
Oh, good for her.
As for Andrew, the bits they could find were collected by one of his sisters. I'm going to jump to conclusions on this because one of his sisters did join a convent. And I feel like if any sister is going to collect the body, it probably would be her out of obligation. Andrew was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave. So fuck him.
Well, if you can't afford the school board or the church assessment, reap what you sow, motherfucker.
Yep. God has come to collect on this hubris. You could have paid for a nice staircase or some really good candles, but no.
You want to claim pauper? You're gonna claim pauper.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really disturbing story that I feel like we could learn a lot from these days, instead of just making every single story about the morallessness of youth.
Which also, just as a side note, is, you're right, hilarious that somebody because we're watching video games, we are more violent, when in actuality, crime is going way down because no one's huffing lead anymore.
That's a good point. Yeah.
No, actually, we're pretty fucking chill. We just want to be able to We want to be able to pay for a mortgage. We want the opportunity to deny a bank mortgage money.
I would love to go 5 years without being harassed for something that I owe.
Yes.
That would be a dream. And then to have it be, it's okay, we'll work with you, no punishment. That's a goddamn dream. And also, like, you know, I know we're talking about video games and violence, but it's one of my favorite things to always say. You know, I mean, correlation doesn't prove causation. We all know this. But violent crime amongst the youth went down as video games got more violent.
Yeah, because
it's just a fact. Like, just goddamn it. If we could focus more on people showing psychological danger, of toxic masculinity, of not being able to take no for an answer, of turning their wife's life into a private hell where she's not allowed to interact with people or do anything that she wants. I don't know, maybe violence against women is a key indicator of people who may commit murder. I don't know. I'm just a simple country lawyer. Yeah, so that's the story of Andrew Kehoe, man. It infuriates me it's been forgotten, but...
Wow. Well, you were right, Dusty. Worst person.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to top guy who killed 40-some children.
Yep.
But you know what? To be able to keep my promise to you, Una, I'm at least going to say what next week's topic's about, so I get locked into it.
Yay!
We're going to be talking about the most successful third party in Rhode Island history.
Ooh!
And they are called the Cool Moose Party.
Stop it.
We're going to be talking about a guy who is whimsical, genuinely charming, probably questionable political beliefs that don't really hurt anyone.
I'll take it. That sounds great. It's the best you can hope for.
We're going to be doing that, and I'm debating what the next one's going to be after that, because one's going to be a huge commitment if I decide to do it. It's going to be another 4 to 6 episode series if I decide to commit to it. But yeah, I at least want to get locked in so you know that I'm not going to pull the rug out from under you and we're going to be talking to like some American Mussolini.
Or one of those where like, hey, listen, I thought we were going to talk about just a guy with like a cool hairdo. And then I started reading and he's American Mussolini.
Oh no, I've done research on this guy first. I got really deep on it. He does have very cool hair. But yeah, this isn't going to be like Second Vermont Republic where I'm like, oh, it's racist, isn't it? No.
Oh.
So yeah, sorry to ruin your day, everyone, but we'll make it better. We'll do that. Also, I hope you all enjoyed our first episode of Gadfly Movie Nights. I would love critiques on it. I was flying by the seat of my ass over most of it, trying not to replicate the style of so many other people. So we are going to be doing another episode. I'm excited to do that. But before we go, Una, I'm a dumbass, and I completely forgot a massive milestone for us.
Oh?
Let me get the numbers on this so I'm not talking way out my butt. 6 episodes ago, we had our 100th episode.
Oh my goodness!
So
106th episode.
Right? We've been doing this thing for like 2.5 years. It's been a weird, depressing delight. I'm
proud of us.
Yeah.
We've just kept going.
Right. It's the most professional commitment we've ever had to anything in our adult lives.
100%. I feel like, as with Improv Sogo podcasts, and it's a war of attrition. You just got to keep going.
Yeah. So thank you, Una, for joining us on this. Thank you, everyone, for listening on this too. And yeah, well, for cheery August, for cheerful August, we will be seeing you soon here on Gadfly. Can't think of an appropriate song at the end of this. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.
Ready to level up your cosplay game? Check out the Geek Forge on Etsy. With a variety of props to give your photos that extra spark, you'll find just what you need. Hold magical fire in the palm of your hand, or take a potion to restore your mana. With a large variety of colors, you can choose your own magical flavor for your cosplay. Bring drama to your photo shoots with these vibrant props and more, all available at the Geek Forge. Are you ready to level up your cosplay?